Okay, so we have an interesting question here. It's a little different than normal. Which of these helps to reconcile the information above? So we're given like some contradictory information. Basically, the trees have high deuterium content, and the caves that formed around the same time have low deuterium content when compared to today's trees and when compared to today's rainwater. So I'm looking for something that explains that away. Now, one thing that I thought that ends up not being relevant is that possibly like the caves somehow lose deuterium over time and the trees maintain the same level of deuterium as they originally had. Like the caves could have like evaporation or something that the trees don't have. I don't know how deuterium works, just throwing it out there. So alternatively, the trees could be gaining deuterium somehow while the caves stayed the same. And that would explain why one of them was not representative of the rainwater historically back in the time period that we were talking about, 16,000 to 24,000 years ago. Now, this is relevant to answer choice B because B says that's not the case. So B is like eliminating a possible explanation. It's saying that the trees are accurately representing the amount of rainwater that they would have had, which doesn't give any reason for us in terms of why they would have a higher deuterium content than the caves. We would expect either as an explanation that like the trees continue to absorb deuterium over time while the caves do not, or something. So this removes a possible explanation. Answer choice A doesn't resolve the discrepancy in any way. It basically says there's not other deuterium in the caves, but I only really care about the water, and I don't see how this is relevant. So looking at C, D, and E, C says something that seems kind of relevant at first, so you might want to hold it, but it doesn't give a reason to resolve or a reason that resolves the discrepancy. So industrialization has altered the deuterium content of rain. Well, that would mean that if rain was lower, it's lower regardless today than it was, which would mean that like the caves should have a higher deuterium content than they do currently. It doesn't resolve the historical discrepancy here to talk about the fact that there was a change between the historical and today. That would explain a discrepancy between the caves and today's rainwater, but not between the caves and the trees because these were at the same time period. So it doesn't get rid of the interesting discrepancy. And answer choice E is a little out of scope and also just irrelevant. It basically says wood with deuterium content is no more likely to remain preserved for longer than is wood with low deuterium content. I think if anything, it actually removes a possibility that maybe like the only trees that remain are those with high deuterium content. So I think it does the opposite as well. It removes a possible explanation because maybe trees with high deuterium content are the only trees that are left to study. And so like naturally there's a bias towards trees that have higher deuterium. So this eliminates the bias. It says the bias is not there. And that means that the statistics we have are like good statistics. That doesn't explain the contradiction. Answer choice D, however, is our winner. And answer choice D says that trees draw on shallow groundwater, whereas water trapped in caves may have fallen as rainwater thousands of years before the caves formed. So we're comparing apples and oranges, and that's the reason for the discrepancy. These caves are using rainwater from thousands of years prior, and these trees are using like current rainwater produced in that time period of 16,000 to 24,000. So because we're comparing apples and oranges, there's an expected discrepancy, and answer choice D explains that discrepancy.